Picture this. You're standing inside Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. The sky above you has already turned to black, but the stadium itself is glowing. 60,000 army bombs pulsing in purple unison, 60,000 people who drove, flew, and in some cases crossed entire oceans just to be in this exact place at this exact moment. BTS is back on American soil for the first time in 4 years. Not just one member, not a solo tour, all 7 of them, together. And then Permission to Dance starts playing, and something nobody could have predicted happens. Something small, something unscripted, something that lasted maybe 3 seconds. And somehow, it became the most talked about moment of the entire night. Before we get there, let's understand what this night actually meant. Because if you're going to understand why that moment hit so hard, you need to understand the weight that was already sitting on that stage before a single note was played. BTS last performed together in the United States in April 2022 at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. That was 4 years ago. In the time between then and Tampa, these 7 men went through one of the most significant transitions any artist can go through: mandatory military service. One by one, they enlisted. One by one, the group went quiet in a way that felt permanent to anyone who wasn't paying close attention, and devastating to anyone who was. ARMY waited. They streamed solo releases. They followed each member's individual journeys. But nothing could fully replace what it felt like to see all 7 of them standing in the same place, moving as one unit, singing to the same crowd at the same time. Then came Arirang, their 10th studio album, their first full group release after military service, dropped on March 20th, 2026, and it did not arrive quietly. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. The lead single, Swim, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Within weeks, BTS had announced their largest world tour in K-pop history. 85 dates, 34 cities, every corner of the globe. And they chose Tampa, Florida, as the first stop on their entire North American leg. Not New York, not Los Angeles, Tampa. There's a reason for that, and it connects directly to the story of this night. Jin, the member who would famously deliver what many fans call the vocal performance of the evening, had held a solo tour, the Run Section Tour, in Tampa the previous year. The city received him with a level of energy and passion that reportedly moved him deeply. According to reports, Jin was so struck by the Tampa crowd that he personally advocated to the other members, telling them they had to include Tampa on the Arirang tour. He didn't just suggest it, he insisted on it. And so when BTS arrived at Raymond James Stadium on April 25th, 2026, they weren't arriving as strangers. They were arriving as a group that one of their own had personally vouched for, fulfilling a promise Jin had made to that city's fans. The phrase "Welcome to Florigen," a portmanteau of Florida and Jin, trended globally on X within hours. That's the kind of emotional groundwork that had already been laid before any of them even walked on stage. The show opened with Hooligan and Aliens, both from Arirang, before launching into a remix of Run BTS that sent the crowd into immediate chaos. From there, the setlist moved through They Don't Know About Us, like Animals, a remix of Fake Love, Swim, and Merry-Go-Round. The second act brought 2.0, Normal, a remix of Not Today, Mic Drop, FY, Fire, Body to Body, and Idol. Then came the encore, Butter, Dynamite, and then the 2 surprise songs that had not appeared on any previous tour stop, Permission to Dance and Magic Shop. The choice of Permission to Dance as a surprise song was significant on its own. This is a track that carries enormous emotional weight in the BTS catalog, a song that was literally written during the COVID-19 pandemic as an act of hope, a song that declared that you don't need permission to dance, that joy doesn't require a reason or a moment or the right circumstances. Choosing it as a surprise, performing it at the first North American show in 4 years, in a stadium full of fans who had spent years waiting, it was already going to be emotional. It was already going to be a moment. But then something happened that nobody planned for. Here's what you need to know about Permission to Dance. Over the years, the song has evolved in live settings. There is a regular version, and there is an extended version that features an additional outro, a longer, more elaborate choreography sequence that ARMY knows intimately. Fans don't just watch this part. They feel it. They anticipate it. The choreography in that extended outro has become one of those shared fandom experiences where the entire crowd is moving together, internally singing the melody of the extra beats, waiting for the moment when the dancers hit that specific sequence of moves that feels like a full stop, a period at the end of a sentence, a perfect landing. On the night of April 25th in Tampa, as Permission to Dance began playing, an army exploded with recognition. The backing track that came through the speakers was the standard version, not the extended one. To understand what that means, you have to understand how Jimin prepares. This is not someone who learns choreography and considers the job done. The accounts from people who have worked with him, trained alongside him, and observed him in rehearsal settings consistently describe the same thing: an almost obsessive relationship with repetition. Not repetition for the sake of muscle memory alone, but repetition as a form of listening. He rehearses until the music and the movement are the same thing, until the body stops waiting for a cue and simply knows what comes next because the song has been learned at a cellular level. The extended outro of Permission to Dance is not just choreography to Jimin. It is a conversation with the song. It is the place where the music goes somewhere it doesn't go in the standard version, and the body responds to that somewhere with moves that only exist because of those extra bars. When you have rehearsed something that deeply, the absence of it doesn't feel like a blank space. It feels like something has been taken. Jimin knew immediately. This is one of those things that separates elite performers from everyone else: the ability to monitor, in real time, what is happening around them on stage while simultaneously executing choreography, engaging with the crowd, and projecting full performance energy. Most people in the stadium didn't even notice in that first second. The song sounded correct. It was Permission to Dance. But Jimin, who had spent thousands of hours rehearsing both versions, heard the difference instantly. Something in the musical structure, something in the rhythm of what was coming, told him that the extended outro wasn't going to arrive. The track they were playing was going to end where it always ends in the standard version, not where the extended version goes. And so Jimin did something. He stopped. Not in a way that disrupted the performance. Not in a way that the casual viewer would have immediately understood. He caught himself mid-motion, mid-preparation for moves that were no longer going to be cued by the music. He stopped, and then he smiled. That smile, the kind of smile you make when you just realize something has gone sideways, and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it except accept reality as it is, landed on his face for a fraction of a second. And then, under his breath, barely audible but absolutely captured by the fan cams that army always is pointed in the right direction at the right time, he let out the F word. Just once. Small. Reflexive. The kind of thing you say when you stub your toe, or when you're about to parallel park and realize the space isn't big enough, or when you've just rehearsed an entire choreography sequence in your head and your body is ready to execute it and the music tells you not today. The reaction online was immediate, and it was enormous. Within minutes of the fan cam footage circulating on X, the moment was everywhere. Fans who had been at the concert replayed it. Fans who had been watching the live stream at home realized what they had seen but not fully processed. The comment section under every clip became a live documentation of pure, undiluted affection. One fan wrote, in a tweet that gained tens of thousands of likes within hours, that they had never heard or seen Jimin curse on stage in their entire years of following him. Others noted the micro-expressions, how the camera caught not just the word, but the entire emotional journey in the span of a few seconds. The surprise, the recognition, the small smile of resignation, and then the word. Someone else compared it to a toddler who had been denied a privilege and copied something they heard without thinking, which somehow made it even more endearing. But here's the thing. Here's what made this moment resonate beyond just being funny, beyond just being a cute, shareable clip. It was the realness of it. Think about what Jimin represents to ARMY. He is, by almost any metric, one of the most technically accomplished performers in the genre. His approach to performance is meticulous. The hours he puts into preparation are not casual. They are the kind of commitment that produces someone who can hear a wrong backing track version in a live stadium with 60,000 screaming people and identify the error in the first beat. He is someone who takes the work seriously, who has spoken extensively about the anxiety of wanting to deliver perfectly for the audience, who approaches his craft with an almost relentless standard. And simultaneously, he is one of the most emotionally open members of BTS, someone whose feelings tend to arrive on his face before he has any chance to manage them. So when the F word came out, when the ultra-prepared, technically rigorous, deeply rehearsed performer had a completely human moment in front of 60,000 people, it didn't make him look careless. It made him look exactly like someone who had cared so much about performing that extended outro correctly that being denied the chance to do it produced an instinctive, involuntary reaction. The word was a tribute to how seriously he takes the performance, expressed in the most unfiltered way possible. It was also funny, genuinely, completely funny. And the combination of those two things, the vulnerability of real disappointment and the absurdity of the situation, is exactly what ARMY loves most about Jimin. He is not someone who performs emotions. He is someone who has them, visibly, in real time, in ways the camera always seems to find. The fans who were watching the live stream at home had their own reaction to document. One widely circulated post described watching the extended outro not happen in real time, getting up to do the choreography at home based on expectation, and then suddenly stopping mid-move when the music ended too soon. A perfectly parallel moment of shared confusion between Jimin on stage and ARMY everywhere else. The internet latched onto this immediately. ARMY was doing the extended outro in their living rooms, and Jimin was standing on the Tampa stage, and both of them got the same news at the same moment. Not this time. What followed in the setlist didn't slow down. Magic Shop came after Permission to Dance, and for anyone who knows the emotional terrain of the BTS discography, there is something very intentional about closing an encore with Magic Shop, a song that essentially functions as a conversation between BTS and ARMY, a song about finding a place inside yourself that holds the things you love most about the world. Closing the night with that song, after 4 years, after military service, after everything, there were reportedly very few dry eyes anywhere in Raymond James Stadium. And then Into the Sun, the final song of the night, which carries a specific weight for Jimin fans because of his co-writing credit. Into the Sun is one of the most emotionally bare tracks on Arirang, and performing it live in Tampa with full production, with the lights, with the staging, with 60,000 voices, turned it into something much larger than the studio recording could have contained. Those who had followed Jimin's songwriting journey since Face, since Like Crazy, since Muse, understood that this was another chapter in an ongoing story about an artist who has never stopped trying to close the distance between what he feels and what he can express in a song. The night itself set several benchmarks. Tampa Bay officials estimated that the 3-night BTS run would generate a multi-million-dollar economic impact on the city. Approximately 180,000 fans were projected to attend across all 3 concerts. The surrounding streets were transformed, merchandise tents set up along Tampa Bay Boulevard days before the show, pop-up shops, fan meetups, themed events, photo installations at Tampa International Airport featuring all 7 members in a BTS-inspired color palette. The city did not quietly host a concert. The city became a K-pop city for a week, in a way that reflects what BTS concerts have always done to the places they land. But strip away all of that, the production budget, the economic data, the global tour scale, and what you're left with is a 3-second moment. A man on a stage who heard the wrong version of a song stopped himself from starting a choreography sequence that wasn't going to be musically supported, smiled with the specific smile of someone who knows exactly what is happening and has already accepted it, and said a word under his breath that he absolutely did not plan to say. ARMY called it the best 3 seconds of Tampa. They weren't wrong. There is something that happens at a BTS concert that is very difficult to explain to someone who hasn't been part of it. It is not just a music performance. It is not just a spectacle of production value and choreography precision, though it is both of those things at a very high level. It is something closer to a collective experience, an agreement between the performers and the audience that everyone in this space is going to be fully present, fully invested, and fully willing to feel whatever needs to be felt. BTS has cultivated that relationship with ARMY for over a decade, and it has produced a specific kind of trust that makes moments like the Jimin moment possible. If you don't trust someone, a small mistake is just a mistake. If you trust them completely, a small mistake is a window. It lets you see in. And what you see when you look through that window, when the F word escapes before Jimin can stop it, when the micro-expressions travel across his face faster than any performance training can intercept, is a person who genuinely cares. Not performs caring, actually cares. About the choreography, about the extended outro, about the fans who came to see it, about the quality of the thing that they are all building together in that stadium every night. That is not something you can rehearse. That is not something the production team can build into a set design. That is what happens when someone has spent their entire artistic life trying to give the best possible version of themselves to an audience, and even a backing track error registers as a loss worth briefly mourning. The conversation about this moment on social media lasted well into the following day, and it showed no sign of slowing as the second Tampa show approached. Compilations of Jimin's reaction appeared alongside compilations of fans reacting to the reaction, which then became compilations of other ARMY compiling the compiled reactions. The internet, in the way it sometimes does with moments that feel genuinely human amid enormous spectacle, ran with it completely. And somewhere in Tampa, preparing for night 2, ParkJimin was presumably very much aware that 60,000 people had watched him say something he didn't mean to say, had found it deeply endearing, and had made it trend globally. Whether that awareness made him smile is unknown. But if past behavior is any guide, the answer is probably yes. There is also something worth sitting with here as the Era tour continues. BTS still has nights 2 and 3 in Tampa, then El Paso, then Mexico City, then Stanford, then Las Vegas, then an entire European and global run stretching deep into 2027. Every one of those nights carries the same potential for the unexpected, for the moment that wasn't in the production plan, for the thing that slips through the carefully constructed architecture of a world-class stadium show and lands in the space between performer and audience as something purely, unmistakably real. The Tampa moment will travel with this tour now. It will be referenced in future videos, in future concert recaps, in the language ARMY uses to describe what it felt like to be there. It has already become part of the Era tour's story, not as a failure, not as an embarrassment, but as the proof of something. Proof that even at the scale, even after all the planning and rehearsal and production investment, the best moments are still the ones nobody planned for. 3 seconds. That is all it was. A smile, a pause, a word. And somehow it contained everything. The technical precision that heard the error, the human reaction that couldn't stay quiet, the trust that made it safe to be imperfect, and the love that turned a backstage mistake into the most talked about moment of BTS's first North American night in 4 years. He smiled, he paused, he cursed, and ARMY called it the best 3 seconds of Tampa. They were right.